Greetings, Earthlings. The United Kingdom of Great Britain is currently preparing to elect its local representatives to Parliament, which will form the next government. But most of the country is in the grip of the mainstream media puppet show, giving half-truths and manufacturing its audience's opinions. Or they think it's a popularity contest between the rather Punch and Judy party leaders. So how should you actually vote? Welcome to Alien Instructions. First things first, do you want your National Health Service sold off gradually to friends of government ministers? Do you want the rich to get richer and the poor to get poorer, regardless of who's actually good and skilled and determined? Do you want the post office scandal to be the tip of a very large and ugly iceberg? Do you want to see our country taken apart gradually and sold down the river for ministers' profits? If you answered yes to any of these questions, well, you need your head checked first, but that makes you a Tory. Or you might also like Keir Starmer if you're only a little bit in favour of some of those. Otherwise, I'm going to start by saying vote for literally anyone except a right-winger. So no Tories, including red and yellow Tories, or they're even worse cousins of the insane far right like UKIP, Reform and the BNP. Please. If your local Labour or Lib Dem candidate is a decent person, then yeah. But a Starmer government would not significantly change the course. He's mostly just promising to let go of the accelerator, so don't make Labour your default. I'm a data nerd, so this is not just an opinion. It's based in statistics that you can find linked below. The only good Tory is a fictional Tory. Feel free to pick someone you think is an exception and look them up. I'd be interested to hear what you find, so let me know in the comments. So, if you're still watching, you've probably accepted that your local Conservatives shouldn't be getting your vote. You might be thinking about just not voting. They're all snakeheads, right? All in it for their own gain, all out of touch, right? Wrong. There are definitely plenty of those about, but there are decent people and they need your help to get elected. It's not just your right, it's your moral duty to your fellow citizens, especially the daft ones who will vote against their own interests because the guy's funny, right? Or maybe you feel like not voting is a protest. None of the main parties talks your talk, or they've all failed you again and again, and no one ever votes for the alternatives. Except that guy in the bottom right. He'll vote for the most insane bigot standing, and there's nothing you can do to stop him. Even if only 4 votes are cast, it'll still be considered a valid election. You don't want those types to be the loudest voice. You don't want the most insane, bigoted grifter on the ballot to become your MP. You could spoil your ballot, which means basically making any mark in it aside from one pencil cross in a valid box, causing it to not be counted. That's actually an ancient defence against candidates paying for votes. If you do anything that might give away that this is your ballot, it's not counted. That used to be a thing. Vote for me and turn the L in my name into a T, I'll give you £5. Back when £5 could buy a house. These days it's more a protest thing, but let's face it, the number of spoiled ballots, even when it's huge, is local news for about 5 seconds, and no one cares. There are a lot of numbers in this bit, and I don't have a photographic memory, so I apologise, I will have to keep looking at my notes. In the 2019 election, there were over 102,000 spoiled ballots, which is just 0.367% of the total votes cast. The biggest lot was in the Speaker's constituency of Chorley, where there were a total of 1,303, just over 3% of all votes cast there. There's a good reason for that, but it's not the subject of this video. In second place was Leeds North East, where there were 531 spoiled ballots, worth about 1% of votes cast, which was also the biggest percentage of spoiled ballots aside from Chorley. Interestingly, in Fermanagh and South Tyrone, which I apologise if I butchered, there were 324 spoiled ballots, and Sinn Féin beat the Ulster Unionists by just 57 votes. While in Bury North there were 111 spoiled ballots, and the Tories beat Labour by 105 votes. But the elections there were still valid. Did you ever hear about that? Probably not, because no one cared. I had to trawl through the Commons Library spreadsheets, which were pretty hard to find, and write my own sorting formulae in new columns to get those figures. Spoiled ballots, like spoiled children, do very little. So you have to vote, but not for the nut job. Will your vote even count? Overwhelmingly, yes. Every election I've looked at, non-voters outnumber the votes for any party. What you're looking at right now is the breakdown for the last UK election. If every registered voter who didn't vote in the last election had picked a candidate that actually got next to no votes, over 100 of those candidates would have won a record-breaking landslide. The most egregious example was Kingston upon Hull East, where Labour took 12,713 votes, while the Tories took 11,474, and a staggering 33,196 registered voters didn't turn out. They could have changed everything. They could have elected anyone by a country mile. There were another 214 constituencies where non-voters were the biggest group. There were actually only 76 out of the 650 constituencies where enough people turned out that the non-voters could not have changed the result. So yes, your vote does have weight. You should cast it. If you're not registered, it's actually too late at time of recording, but there's always next time. But that still leaves whose name to actually put your cross next to. Step 1, you need to find out who they are. There's a link in the description to whocanivotefor.co.uk where you can find the official list of candidates for every constituency. And if you don't know the name of your constituency, stick in your postcode and it'll tell you. Even I've been there, probably more often than a lot of British adults have voted because I've moved about so much. If your current MP's standing again, or any of the candidates have previously held any other political post, you can find out their voting record on theyworkforyou.com, which is also linked below. Once you know who's standing, look them up anywhere you can, stick their name into search engines. Find out what they've been saying in local hustings. Go to the next hustings if you can. Find out what their party, if they have one, is all about, and factor that in because it will play a part in their thinking. Find out their stance on every issue you can. Find out if they've committed any crimes in the past. Find out if they've ever been banned from social media. These sorts of things tend to end up in the local news somewhere. Even Wikipedia often has certified verifiable gold on anyone who's held a public position if you want to rule out a bad candidate. That's what you're doing. You want to find someone with no history of corruption, crime, bigotry, or any of the other things turning our political landscape into a Jurassic Park day. You can't be 100% sure who they are, but if you see them speak at a local hustings or talk to them when they're out campaigning, it comes down to how good a judge of character you are. Can you sniff out when people fib? If you'd like to learn how to catch people fibbing, there are probably instructional videos for that online by people who can explain it rather better than me. But if I explain this well, I'd appreciate a like, subscribe, maybe share the video, and if you'd like to help me make more videos, you can sponsor me on Patreon or elsewhere. Lots of links in the comments. Peace and long life.